Well, welcome all of you to the Midday Connect. I'm Dr. Troy Hall. For most of you, you can just call me Troy. For those I don't like, you can call me Mr. Dr. Sir. And by the way, you can hold the applause and stay seated. I don't necessarily need you to be screaming up and yelling, but it would be nice, to see some happy faces and some smiles along the way. We started out with a little activity that we call connections before content. And this is a way for you to get connected. So often in our lives, we focus on our roles and and we define ourselves based on those roles. But this gave us an opportunity to see a little bit more of our personal side, and you have a chance to talk about something. And in this case, it was related to our topic. So we thought it would be a good idea to talk about that. So I'd like for those of you who actually shared that information in that networking breakout room, go ahead in the comments section and tell me the goal that you accomplished and it felt good. And I don't need a lot of detail. This is going to be a real quick exercise for you just to write down some information, just a bullet. You could say what it was. You didn't have to say what you did, but that'd be really great. So I want to share with you part of a goal that I was able to accomplish that really felt good, and it has to do that. It starts a little bit with a tragedy. So to give you a little update, so this past week we had a lightning strike our home, and it ignited a fire. And so that fire was able to be contained. So most of the structure is in place. What wasn't hurt by the fire or the activity of the individuals who were trying to save our space is the silent killer is the smoke. And so one of our goals that I had for that particular activity was to make sure that our family was safe and to make sure that we had a place to stay for a period of time. So all of my corporate training, I went right into disaster recovery, and that was a goal that I was able to accomplish, and it felt really good. And I'm going to share with you a little bit about how that story is impacted. It wasn't the personal story I was going to share with you, by the way, until it just happened this past week. So I felt like, okay, it's very prevalent. I need to try to make sure that that comes forward in the connection with all of you. So we'll go ahead and see in the chat. So Taylor and Hannah, you're checking the chat. So if you see where people have made some comments, please just unmic yourself and tell me what comments they've had so that I can, incorporate that into the conversation.
Yeah, Cheryl kicked us off with getting 100 listings on eBay and got her EIN
Perfect.
number for her consulting business.
Good,
Christian
good,
had a
good.
difficult conversation with his boss. Jackson finalized the creation of a co-pilot agent for market research. And
Great.
Spencer lowered his A1C over 6 months by adjusting diet. And Jeremy put some supports for his tomatoes up. Love it.
Love it. Love it. And so what's really great about you sharing that is that you didn't hold back on those things that are personal. Oftentimes when we talk about goals, especially in a business setting, we're so restricted to just talking about the things in business. So we had a nice combination between them. So certainly no problem with people talking about business, but it's just nice to see that there was a good combination between individuals. So part of our opportunity today is to really talk about, goal motivation and systems. I'm not going to school you on things like SMART goals because I think by now most of you should know what that is. And if you don't, just message me and I'll talk to you about that later. But we're going to take a look at what really impacts motivation that helps us achieve the goal and the systems. It's going to be motivation and systems that really help us achieve the things that we want to do. It's not just the actions or the activities we take, but it's what is behind it that really and truly makes all the difference. So, one of the first things that happens when we think about our motivation towards a goal is our affiliation. So, we want to know, how do we belong? How do we belong with that goal? How do others that we connect with may belong to that goal? What is that relationship that we have in achieving the goal? And this affiliation that we want is our need to be a part of something. So when we think about these goals that we're achieving, all of those goals are relating to a much bigger concept of us and a much bigger idea of where we are in life. The next thing that motivates us is achievement and rewards. You know, let's face it, who doesn't want to, especially in that example where you added some new clients or achieved a sales goal? I mean, it could be that you received an additional incentive to doing it, but we want to recognize that. And then the last element that impacts motivation is the power that we have. Now, when McClelland's theory of motivation, and you can all check that out and look that up if you want, he does break down power into two sections. One called institutional power, which is the power you as a leader exert over a situation, or influential power, which is your ability to influence yourself and others to accomplish things. So we have this impact of motivation that happens either by how we want to affiliate with the things that we're doing, how we want to have that sense of belonging, the achievement or recognition, reward that we are expecting from making it happen, and then our influential power. These are the things that we will do for ourselves. And oftentimes we see this influential power in two ways. We see it in the extrinsic that motivates us and the intrinsic. And many of you have been schooled before, you have been through many education courses, so you understand that extrinsic is those exterior things, that those exterior influences that impact you. And those are things such as like a raise or a salary increase or compensation increase, possibly a title. It could be that you got new equipment, maybe a new office space, something like that. For us personally, we got a new car, or in our case, hopefully a new house. So those types of things will all play into that. But realistically, the impact of motivation from all of these is really the interior. It's our intrinsic motivation that truly makes a difference as to whether we are going to achieve our goal or not. It's how we connect and how we feel about that particular goal. And that's why it's really important that when we think about goals, we really go and ask ourselves, what's the big thing we're playing for? What is the big thing? So although I may have a goal to get a new house, that's really not my goal. My goal is to create sustainability for my family, to make sure that they have a safe place where they can be and they can reference themselves and connect themselves to that. So we go beyond just the activities of achieving that small line goal to the much bigger goal. And the more we know about it and the more we connect to it, then the greater our chances are that we can accomplish it. So we build behaviors around the actions that we are going to take is in three ways in culture. So part of my work, part of my background, I have a PhD in global leadership and entrepreneurship. My dissertation was in group dynamics and my emphasis was on cohesion. And so I created a consulting organization and company through cohesion culture. And what it is about helping organizations infuse cohesion into their culture. Big objective. Why would they organizations want to do that? To retain talent. So the goal of infusing cohesion into the culture of the organization might be a goal, but if for the bigger reason they're playing for is to retain the talent. So in that, we think about for ourselves our behaviors that are going to impact the goals that we have in mind. And one of the first things we're going to look at is our value system. Our value system is the way that we think about the world around us and we give it shape, we give it energy. It defines us, and oftentimes the words we speak also define the space where we are. And these values become our norms and standards. These are things that we absolutely will fight for: honesty, integrity, approachability, believability, authentic. Any of those types of words that we want to use really form our core values. And we do that through something called the implication or attribution theory. And it's really our connection, because every time that we have an experience, there's a value stamped on it. So the experience that our family had with this fire for the house, there's now a value that's stamped to that. And something that may have been dormant or laid down further in the core values in our minds now may spring forward every time we have this new activity or this new way to imprint this value. From there, we take a look at our belief systems. Our beliefs of how we feel about these things come forward in our emotions, and we celebrate those through things like traditions, rituals, and customs. Those are the types of things that happen. So our values are there. We have our beliefs, which we overlay, and we often express them through traditions, rituals, and customs. And then lastly, we then look at our attitudes about these beliefs and the core values, and we reflect our cultural similarities and differences, and it might show up in things like optimism, learning, humility, determination. Just those are just some of the words. So it's not just positive or negative in the way of behavior or the way of attitude, but it is more looking holistically at the situation. So all of those are going to establish behaviors that we have that are going to impact our ability to achieve these goals. It will also be this motivation laid on top of these behaviors to help us. But that isn't enough yet. The other thing we have to think about are the systems that we have in place. But before we get to that, Hannah has prepared a goal. So this is our goal poll, which I kind of like it when things rhyme a little bit. It sort of works pretty cool for me. And so we want to know how likely you are to achieve a goal if you, and so there we go. So just go ahead and fill in your response, and I'm going to fill in my response. And since I know the answers, I'm going to write those in. And then once you have done that, then you simply hit the submit button, and then all of your information will be submitted. And so we really just ask the questions, really it's how likely are you to achieve a goal if you think about it, or if you write it down, or you tell someone about it, or what about speaking it out loud again? What does that look like? So once we have the information, Hannah, you can go ahead and supply. Let's see how people responded. And I believe it's important for all of you to do it before the goal can be calculated. The poll can be calculated.
Yeah, we've still got some answers coming in.
Okay, good.
Still some people
So,
that need to. There we go. Looking
all
good.
right. We're good now? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what we've got. All right, Hannah, what do you have for us in the way of this goal results? What do you see? Okay, so let's take a look at what we have here. So how likely are you to achieve goals if you think about it? 20% was the high number there. How likely are you to achieve a goal if you write it down? We had 50% as the high number. How likely are you to achieve the goal if you tell someone about it? 70%. Good there. And then how likely to achieve it if you repeat it out loud? Somewhere between 50 and 70% was kind of split. So let's see what the real answers are. So if you are likely to think about a goal, you are about 7% likely to make it happen. So it exists somewhere in your brain. You're about 7% likely to make it happen. When you write it down, you have increased that to 40%. So the act of writing it down alone, look at the impact it has. So thinking about it and writing it down, that's one of the reasons that using a SMART goal format works. SMART goals really just create a structure to it. And I will, just for clarification, in case someone does not know, a SMART goal stands for something being specific, being measurable, attainable, realistic, or relevant, and then a time commitment made to it. So if you say, like, for instance, I say, look, I want to find a place for us to stay, and I need to do that by, the 21st of the month, then I've set up a SMART goal in that sense because I said what I wanted to do. It was very specific. It is attainable. It was relevant, and it had a time stamp to it. So I kind of write that down. But then what happens if I tell someone else? When I tell someone else, I then increases to 70%. So all of this activity is getting you to the point of making this goal live within you, and your brain now is working even harder at doing it. You know, our brains are designed to help us achieve things and to accomplish. And when we get it into action, it really helps. But what makes the biggest difference in all of it, when you do all of these items and then speak it out loud, it's now 90%. So it's really a progression between thinking, writing, telling someone, and then speaking it out loud. That means that for you to have success, you're going to need to talk about it. You're going to need to put it out there, not just telling one person, but you're going to have to put out what you're doing, what are the actions, and how do you need help? What do you need from people? So that is a little bit of the process, but the systems now, these are systems that are going to help you achieve the goal. You know, oftentimes I've heard people say, oh, I have a goal and I'm going to, like for me to find this house, I'm going to, call realtor friends and see what connections they have. I'm going to look in listings. I'm going to drive through the neighborhood. I'm going to go to some open houses. I'm going to check some things out. Yes, those are all actions that you're going to take, but those actions don't help you achieve the goal. The real work is in the systems that we put in place. It's understanding how we're motivated to achieve it. The fact that we want to make sure that we're really focusing on the big thing that that goal is going to provide for us. And then here are 5 systems for you to try. Now you're going to get this PowerPoint in PDF, and you're going to get a document called Goal Motivation and Systems, which gives you all the detail. And I have grouped about 14 systems into this document for you so that you'll be able to use it. But I'm going to highlight 5 of them that I think are very important for us to consider. The first one is journaling. By the way, journaling is therapeutic. Being able to write down information, to talk about our feelings and things that are going on, absolutely. That would be a really great thing to do. However, you can also take journaling in another way. You can do it just to help you record information. So when I do professional coaching with my clients and I talk to them about journaling, I don't want it to be laborsome. I don't want it to be that they're writing down some big documentation that they're going to have to, submit like it's an essay for an English class. It just needs to be the information to help you remember what you were going through and what you were doing so that when we have a conversation, we can now be meaningful. So you want the journaling to be meaningful. That's really the bottom line. So whether you're going to write a novel, you're going to write sentences, or you bullet point, you just want to create some journaling. And the journaling will help you not only process your emotions through what you're doing, because we talked about our connection, our affiliation, and our achievement and reward that we want in our personal power, but it just really helps us gain perspective. You can also choose an accountability partner. Now, choosing an accountability partner, there's a process to doing that. I give you a few tips in that handout, but guess what? I have an extra handout for the accountability partner. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, and it's real easy to find me on LinkedIn, and you put a message, I will then send that document to you. I'm not going to capture a lot of names and information from you because we already connected on LinkedIn. I'm just going to send it to you if you would like it. But in accountability partner, the most important thing to know is this. One, you got to get permission from someone if you expect them to be your accountability partner. It's not just good for you to say, hey, I think I'm going to have this person do it. You need to have a formal invitation, invite them. Make sure that they know how important that they are. And then there are certain things that you want to set up to make this accountability partnership really work. Visualization. I know we have heard the comment that a picture is worth 1,000 words. This is so true in many ways. We know that there are marketing studies that have been done that individuals seeing pictures can be prompted to buy products and services and solutions, whether there were words in the ad or not. Visualization is also good for us to mentally prepare ourselves for what does it look like when we achieve the goal. So the visualization process can also happen as in, I want to visualize me in a process. And often that's used sometimes when you're doing public speaking and they say, visualize what it looks like to the crowd and how comfortable you are. And to do that, it's really good because you're engaging your mind when you're creating that visualization. It's very, very helpful. But you can also visualize in the physical moment. And what that I mean by that is finding a photo or an image, a word, a phrase, something that's important to you, and you have it physically in front of you. You can put it on your laptop. It maybe could be an image that would be maybe a screensaver on your phone temporarily that would be really impactful to you, that would help you go like, this is what I'm playing for. I'm playing for this. So the goal doesn't necessarily have to reflect what the outcome is. For instance, in getting the house, I don't have to have a picture of a house, but us jumping up and down, us having ourselves, our arms spread, having us hug each other, maybe that's the visualization that I want to have that will remind me why and how important it is to continue to move forward for that home. Habit stacking. Now, this is a little different. I love this one. This comes from James Clear from Atomic Habits. And habit stacking, it's a really cool thing that you can do. So let's say, for instance, that you want to increase your reading and you happen to be a coffee drinker. So while you're making your coffee in the morning, you can actually have your book beside your coffee maker. Oh, that, by the way, is called proximity, which is another system. But you have your book, and while the coffee is brewing, you actually open the book and read until the coffee is finished brewing, even if it's 2 or 3 minutes. If you do that every single day, before you know it, you have read 15 minutes of information. And for those individuals who feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed with things that I don't know how I can do it, find ways that you can habit stack. Now, here's why it works or how it can work. It has to be a habit to stack. It has to be a habit that you can do that doesn't require a lot of thinking. It's like, oh, okay, I'm going to be able to do this. Like putting up the coffee doesn't require a whole lot of work. Then you can stack something else on top of it. If you need your brain to think about this and think about that, that's not going to happen because multitasking, it really is a myth. By the way, that would be another midday connection, not one for today. So habit stacking will be explained in a little bit more detail in the document. And then the other one that I include at the very end is who you know. Sometimes accomplishing things isn't so much about you doing these right things. It's about who you know who has already done it so that you can then ask them questions to help them along. All right, these were 5 systems that I shared with you. There are 14 total in the handout. Hopefully you'll love the detail to these and the other 9. I give you examples of people inside the business world or the entertainment world who have used these systems to help them achieve the goals and the success that they have accomplished. For visualization, I'll give you a little insight to that. Jim Carrey wrote himself a check for what he expected to get for his first job. And he wrote that check to himself specifically about that. And he visualized on that check every single time until his goal became a reality. So our next steps is put what you learned today into action. I'm accessible to you. You can reach out to me at drtroy@drtroyhall.com. So that's my email connection for those of you. And by the way, I will say this, the only person in charge of my busyness is me. So if you feel that I'm too busy to check me out, then shame on you. All right. So here's something that I'll leave up for just a minute or two as we go into some questions and answers. But here are a couple of my best-selling books, and I do want to offer them to you for free. And you can do so by joining the cohesiveleader.com community. And when you do, there's an adventure level, which is free, and you can download both of those particular books simply by joining the community. Taylor,
That's
I'm going to
amazing.
turn it back over to you, man.
Thank you, Dr. Mr. Sir.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it. Great insight and great education. I put a question in the chat, but would like to welcome and open up the chat or raise your hand if you have any questions or would like to ask Troy anything. While you're typing in your questions though, Troy, my question for you was, with those 5 systems that you listed, do you have any suggested tools or products or tangible things that you would suggest to kick those off or to start them? Like, is there a particular journal prompt list that you like, or is there a software app that you think is helpful for those systems?
Well, Taylor, thank you so much for asking about that. And again, just as a reminder, you're asking me if there are specific systems or additional products that you need to buy for that. And I'm a very practical person, and the answer is no. So you can find things that work for you. All these suggestions are actions that you need to take. So within your leadership, I spend a lot of time working with leaders, helping them to work through leadership, to power their way to do what they need to do and to accomplish. And so, really, for these, there's no additional system or special products that I'm selling. Many of them are like each of those systems aren't hard to do. What's hard to do is motivating us to do them. It's getting our mind set to the fact that, yes, I need to try something different. We know the definition of insanity, right? It's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So this gives us this unique opportunity to really do some different things and to try it. And I will tell you, the systems make all the difference in the world. Not the individual actions. You still need the individual actions, but it's these systems that we'll put in place that are going to help you accomplish those things. And then knowing what the bigger issue is that you're playing for is what always reminds you and motivates you. The only person who can motivate yourself is you.
Awesome. I love the pragmatic approach.
Yeah.
I find
Oh,
myself
Sarah,
using spreadsheets a lot for that.
yes. Okay,
But
Sherelle, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I just was wondering how, when you started your thing, how you motivated yourself. If you said it was just based on you, it would be nice to hear your way of motivating yourself.
Well, okay, thanks. So, for me, I grew up in a very poor town. Oftentimes people think that when you have a doctor in front of your name, that you are an individual who has been, lives a life of affluent life. That wasn't the case for me. I lived in a very small town, maybe 250 people. We were poor. We had rice 4 nights a week, but I had great parents. My parents were constantly saying, look, go do things. It wasn't for them to find the world, but they encouraged us to find the world. They encouraged us to go out. My mom, AKA Fanny, by the way, which is another book that I had not included. It's called Fanny Rules, A Mother's Leadership Lessons That Never Grow Old. My mom was diagnosed with cancer when I was 12 years old. And when you live in a poor town and you don't have much economics or education or attention medically, you think the person's going to die. And 50 some years ago, when that happened, that's exactly what we thought it was. But mom was a very strong woman, and she basically held to the fact that she was not going to go down without a fight. And so she reminded me that there were many things. And so one of the things that she taught me was she said that, Troy, it's not the successes or failures that shape your life, it's how you're going to handle them. She said your character will always be defined by the choices you make, not the circumstances you find yourself in. We were poor by circumstance, not by choice. I had cancer by circumstance, not by choice. If you want to conquer the world, make that a choice. And so I really always was encouraged to go beyond and to do that. Although it wasn't comfortable for them to do it, it was just based on their generation and the way they were brought up. But they always offered that opportunity. And then for me, what also motivated me in these achievements was to always bring my parents along. Never forgot where I came from and build them and bring them up. And the last 5 years of their life, my mom did survive 43 years after that awful summer, but she ended up having dementia and Parkinson's. So for her final 5 years and my mom and my dad's final 5 years, they were able to live with us and we were able to give them that life that they needed to the finish line.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for asking. I really appreciate you giving me a chance to share a little bit about me. It is my favorite subject anyway.
other questions from the group?
Well, it's super. I hope that you all will connect with me on LinkedIn since you all have access. You only have to remember one name. I have a whole list of people's names I'd have to try to remember. So hopefully you'll connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you do connect tomorrow, I've taken the opportunity to write about my story and what I've learned through this lightning fire that occurred in our home and the leadership lesson that it meant to me. Um, it's about letting people contribute to your life, even when you feel like you have it under control.
Amazing. Troy, thank you so much. We'll send out the rest of the systems in the document that you shared with Hannah. And again, thanks for your time. Look forward to seeing everybody next week as well. Really appreciate it, Troy. Thank you.
Okay, great. Am I hanging on for a minute or am I leaving too?
We'll jump right back in here, Troy.
So leave and then jump back in. Perfect. Thanks. Thanks all.